Good morning, teacher.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon. So, good afternoon, all. So, നമ്മുടെ session start ചെയ്യാം. So, our topic for today's session is employment growth and informalization in India. So, first of all, what do you mean by employment? That's an important concern to be discussed with. So, employment refers to the occupation in which people work for others and get remunerated in return. So, നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എന്തിനാ പഠിക്കുന്നത്? ബേസിക്കലി യുവർ ബേസിക് എയിം ഇസ് ടു ഗെറ്റ് ആൻ എംപ്ലോയ്മെന്റ്, റൈറ്റ്? ഒരു ജോലി ലഭിക്കുക തന്നെയാണല്ലേ നമ്മളുടെ എല്ലാവരുടെയും ലക്ഷ്യം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. So, employment means it refers to the occupation. Suppose we are working for a particular person, or we are working in a particular firm or in a particular business unit. So, what we are doing there we are just getting employed and we are getting something in return. നമ്മൾ ജോലി ചെയ്യുന്നു, നമ്മൾ അതിനനുസരിച്ച് എന്തെങ്കിലുമൊക്കെ റിട്ടേൺ കിട്ടണു അല്ലേ? So, what we call it, അതിനെയാണ് we call it as employment. So, those who are employed by others are known as employees and get their income in the form of wages or salaries as per their service agreement. So, sometimes one person, say for example, let it me, okay, I am working for a particular firm. Okay, suppose I am working for a particular firm, I'll be getting some remuneration. I'll be getting some return. Say for example, salary, wage, all those things. So, what am I? I am an employee. And the one who is providing me the job, that is called employer. ഞാനൊരു വ്യക്തിക്ക് വേണ്ടി ജോലി ചെയ്യുകയാണെങ്കിൽ എന്നെ വിളിക്കുന്നത് എന്താ? എംപ്ലോയി എന്നാണ് വിളിക്കുന്നത്, because I will be getting some sort of remuneration for that. And when that particular person who is providing me the job, എനിക്ക് ജോബ് നൽകുന്നത് ആരാണോ ആ particular personനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ employer എന്ന് വിളിക്കുന്നത്. So we have already learned 3 concepts. I'll be asking you question towards the end. First one is, what do you mean by employment? Employment means it refers to some sorts of occupation. നമ്മൾ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു ജോലി ചെയ്യുന്നതിനെയാണ് employment എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. And something or some form of return must be there. Say for example, salary, wage, or those things. Second one, who is an employee? An employee is a person who works in a particular firm. ഒരു particular firmൽ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽസിനെ we call it as employee, and those who provide us the job, നമുക്ക് ജോബ് നൽകില്ലേ, അവരെയാണ് ബേസിക്കലി ഫ്രണ്ട്സ് നമ്മൾ എന്തായിട്ട് വിളിക്കുന്ന മക്കളെ? എംപ്ലോയർ എന്നുള്ളത് കൊണ്ട് വിളിക്കുന്നത്. So, next is growth and changing structure of employment. So, basically, it can be taken in 2 heads. The first one is the growth of employment and the second one is the growth of GDP. So, 2 headsന്റെ കീഴിലാണ്, യെസ്, എങ്ങനെയാണ് 2 headsന്റെ കീഴിലാണ് നമ്മൾ ബേസിക്കലി ഇതിനെ കമ്പ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. The first one is the growth of employment and the second one is the growth of GDP. So, what we have learned till now? We have learned regarding what is employment. So, what is employment? Employment means suppose we are doing some sort of occupation on the basis of some return. Say for example, salary, wage, all those things, we call it as employment. Who is an employee? Suppose we are getting employed in a particular firm, we are called as employee, and the one who is providing us the job, that is known as employer. So the second one is also finished. Now, the employment structure, it can be classified under different heads. It is basically classified into 2, which includes the growth of employment and the growth of GDP. So, can you just tell me what you meant by GDP? എന്താണ് GDP എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ആർക്കെങ്കിലും പറയാമോ? what you meant by GDP? Okay, GDP എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ എന്താ? It is the total amount of goods and services produced in a domestic territory during a particular year. What is GDP? Total amount of goods and services produced in an economy during a financial year. ഒരു പെർട്ടിക്കുലർ ഫിനാൻഷ്യൽ ഇയറിൽ നമ്മുടെ രാജ്യത്ത് ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന മൊത്തം ഗുഡ്സ് ആൻഡ് സർവീസസിനെയാണ് ഫ്രണ്ട്സ് നമ്മൾ എന്തായി വിളിക്കുന്ന മക്കളെ? GDP എന്നുള്ളതായിട്ട് വിളിക്കുന്നത് അല്ലെ? So we have to know what is the level of employment towards this GDP growth structure. So basically, during the period 1950 to 2010, GDP showed a positively increasing tendency. That is 1950 to 2010, massive levels of employment opportunities was created. So, ഈ ഒരു 2010 വരെ നമ്മൾ എടുത്തു നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ എക്കോണമിയിൽ കൂടുതൽ എംപ്ലോയ്മെന്റ് പ്രൊവിഷൻസ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. But later what happened? We know about the migration, right? Now also it is taking place. So, people are migrating from one place to another place in search of employment potentiality or employment opportunity. So that created severe threats in our economy because employment in അല്ലെങ്കിൽ better salary augment ചെയ്ത് people are migrating to UK, people are migrating to USA. So people ഇവിടെ എന്താണ് നമ്മളുടെ ഏരിയയിൽ ഇല്ലാതാവുക ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഇപ്പൊ ഭാവിയിൽ ചിലപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങളൊക്കെ പഠിച്ച് എന്ത് ചെയ്യാം, നിങ്ങൾ മൈഗ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് പോയേക്കാം. വൈ? ബിക്കോസ് യു ആർ നോട്ട് ഗെറ്റിംഗ് ഇനഫ് എമൗണ്ട് ഓഫ് opportunities over here. So this is the basic reason why the GDP is getting decelerated. But during 1950 to 2010, what was the basic tendency was that there was an improvement in the employment growth of our economy. So basically it was not more than 2%. Employment growth potentiality ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. പക്ഷെ അതൊരു 2% എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞാൽ അറിയാം അല്ലെ, വെറൊരു 2% മാത്രമാണ് that employment potentiality was increasing. And in the 1990s, what happened is that it was a jobless growth. People are getting educated, but they are not getting employment opportunity. Yeah, I have done MPhil, I have done MA, BEd, NET, but no job available. So what is the basic reason behind that? Employment opportunities are not being created. ജോലി അവസരങ്ങൾ ക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യണില്ല അല്ലെ. ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ അവിടെ തന്നെ നിൽക്കൂല്ലേ, നമ്മൾ പറക്കുവോ അങ്ങ് USA-ലേക്കും UK-ലേക്കും? ഇല്ല അല്ലെ മക്കളെ? യെസ്. അപ്പൊ എന്താണ്, നിങ്ങളെ സമയമാകുമ്പോഴേക്കെങ്കിലും more employment opportunities must be created and our budget also aimed for such particular methods, right? Okay, so what we have learned till now, employment. We have learned till employment means it refers to the occupation in which a people work, and basically they are getting some amount of returns for that. There are basically two types of people. First one is the employee and the second one is the employer. Employee means who is working in return for something. Employer is a person who is providing certain amount of job opportunities. And it is basically classified into two sections. The first one is the growth of employment and the second one is the growth of GDP. During the period 1950 to 2010, what we can see is that there was high levels of employment growth in our economy, but it was a narrowed growth. Only 2% of jobless growth was seen in this particular area. So Arya, you are raising your hand. Are you having any doubt? Doubt undo Arya? Arya, that thing. Okay, endukku doubt undo? Okay, sure. And now we have moving on to trends in employment pattern from 1972 to 2018. So when you're studying this, you don't want to by heart all these situations. Just learn 1972, 73 and just go for 2017, 2018. You don't want to mug up all these things. You just have to refer 1972, 73 data and 2017 and 2018 data. So as we all are evicted, or we all know that there are basically three sectors in our economy. Yes, which are they? First one is the primary sector, second one is the secondary sector, and the third one is the tertiary or the service sector. So the primary sector, as we can all see that in 72 and 73, its ratio was 74.3%. However, in 2017-18, the people who are getting employed in the primary sector, especially this agriculture, just like that sectors, okay, fishing, livestock, marines, such industries, the number of people getting employed are getting decelerated. Why? People think or everybody is going behind white collar jobs. എല്ലാവർക്കും white collar jobs മതി. ആർക്കും ഇങ്ങനത്തെ കൃഷി മേഖലയിലേക്കൊന്നും തിരിയാനായിട്ട് താല്പര്യമില്ല. So what happens? The total amount of people who are employed in the primary sector are getting decelerated. The second one is the secondary sector. Secondary sector എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അറിയാം, manufacturing, industrial sector, all those things. So secondary sector, the ratio was 10.9% and it has increased. Secondary sector, yes, the government is building what? Industries, right? കൂടുതൽ ഇൻഡസ്ട്രീസ് വരുമ്പോൾ എല്ലാവരും കൂടുതലായിട്ട് എംപ്ലോയ്മെന്റ് ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റീസിലേക്ക് മൂവ് ചെയ്യും അല്ലേ? So the secondary sector is increasing from 10.9% to 24.4%. Now moving on to the service sector, it has increased from 14.8% to 31%. Now, in the case of self-employed, it has increased from 61.4% to not increased, it has declined because people, and they are migrating, they are going for a migration tendency. So they are not interested to do certain types of jobs themselves. അവർക്ക് റിസ്ക് എടുക്കാൻ താല്പര്യമില്ല. There are basically three types of people in our world. First one is risk averters. അയ്യോ എന്നെ കൊണ്ടൊന്നും പറ്റൂല റിസ്ക് എടുക്കാൻ. No, ഞാൻ റിസ്ക് എടുക്കില്ല. That is generally called risk averters. റിസ്ക് വരട്ടെ, I am ready to accept any particular form of risk. അവരെയാണ് basically risk divergers എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. They are ready to take off risk. റിസ്ക് പ്ലഞ്ചേഴ്സ് വേണമെങ്കിൽ അത്യാവശ്യമാണെങ്കിൽ റിസ്ക് എടുക്കാം. ഇതിലേതാ നിങ്ങൾ നോക്കണം കേട്ടോ. റിസ്ക് എടുക്കാം എന്നുള്ളവരെയാണ് റിസ്ക് പ്ലഞ്ചേഴ്സ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ റിസ്ക് ന്യൂട്രൽസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. സോ ദോസ് പീപ്പിൾ, മെനി ഓഫ് ദ പീപ്പിൾ ടുഡേ, they are not ready to accept risk at any cost. So they are not interested to go for self-employment opportunity, and this results in the massive declaration in the rate of employed persons. In the case of regular salaried workers, it has been increased. We all go for PSC exams, all those things, because we prefer that we want to get certain income towards the end of a particular month. So we don't want to go for business activities. We need income. So as a result, they will do what? Yes, we need income. So as a result, they go for regular salaried or regular considerable job opportunities. Next one is casual wage laborers. Their rate also have increased from 23.2% to 25%. So this is a basic trend. What you can analyze from this figures reveals that in the case of primary sector and in the case of self-employed person, there has been a declining tendency, and in almost other sectors, there has been an increasing tendency. Now, if we are moving on towards the GDP growth of our economy and the employment potentiality, you don't want to mug up all these things. Just learn the first one and just learn the last one. So here, please refer GDP. It was 3.6% just after the independence, right? And now think about the situation. 2010-12, it was 7.8%. That means GDP, the total amount of goods and services manufacturing in our economy, has increased. Why? Because of you all. Why? You all are becoming more and more potential, contributing a lot to the society. So when you get a particular job opportunity over here itself, your production activity in the industrial sector gets increased and your contribution will augment. നിങ്ങളൊക്കെ പഠിച്ച് നല്ല നിലയിലെത്തുവാണ്, നല്ല ഇൻഡസ്ട്രി, നിങ്ങൾ നല്ല ഓൺടർപ്രീനേഴ്സ് ഒക്കെ ആയിട്ട് മാറുവാണെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എന്ത് ചെയ്യാം? പ്രൊഡക്ടിവിറ്റി കൂട്ടാനായിട്ട് പറ്റുമല്ലേ മക്കളെ? അപ്പൊ എന്ത് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് പറ്റും? നിങ്ങൾ പ്രൊഡക്ടിവിറ്റി കൂട്ടുകയും ഓട്ടോമാറ്റിക്കലി നമ്മുടെ GDP-യിലേക്ക് എന്ത് സംഭവിക്കും? കോൺട്രിബ്യൂഷൻ കൂടുകയും ചെയ്യും അല്ലെ? Employment, it has also increased from 0.39 to 1.12%. എംപ്ലോയ്മെന്റും കൂടിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. കൂടുതൽ ആൾക്കാർക്ക് തൊഴിലവസരങ്ങൾ കൊടുക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അതർവൈസ് എന്ത് സംഭവിക്കും? നിങ്ങളെ പോലെയൊക്കെയുള്ള നല്ല ടാലന്റഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള കുട്ടികൾ പുറത്തേക്ക് മൈഗ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് പോകും. സോ ആസ് എ റിസൾട്ട് ഹിയർ പ്രൊഡക്ടിവിറ്റി വിൽ ഡിക്ലൈൻ. Now when we are moving on to jobless growth. Jobless growth is a situation when the level of output in the economy tends to rise owing to innovative technology without any perceptible rise in the level of employment. Jobless growth leads to chronic unemployment even when there is rise in GDP. GDP is increasing. Let it be 7%, let it be 8%, 9%. It is increasing. But where is the job? Is people getting employed? No, people are not getting employed. MPhil, MA, NET, B.Ed, all those net, everything is there with that. But no job. Why? No job opportunities. If there is job opportunity, if there is employer, then only employee will get employment, right? So here there is no employment provision. So that is what is called jobless growth. Growth ഉണ്ടോ എക്കോണമിയില്? ഗ്രോത്ത് ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ട്, പക്ഷെ എല്ലാവർക്കും ജോലി ഉണ്ടോ? ജോലി ഇല്ല. That is the basic concern. Next is casualization and informalization of employment. What is casualization? It refers to situation when the percent of casually hired workers tends to rise over time. That is, if I'm interested to go for a particular job, I'll do that. I'm not on a regular basis. കാഷ്വലി വിളിക്കുക. അപ്പൊ ഈ കോൺട്രാക്ട് ബേസിസിൽ വിളിക്കുക, ഫ്ലാറ്റ് പണിയുക, അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടാവൂലേ നമുക്ക്. അപ്പൊ ബേസിക് ആയിട്ട് നമ്മൾ ഒരു പെർട്ടിക്കുലർ ടൈം പീരീഡിലേക്ക് സപ്പോസ് വി ആർ ഹയറിംഗ് എ പെർട്ടിക്കുലർ പേഴ്സൺ, ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് ജനറലി കോൾഡ് ആസ് കാഷ്വലൈസേഷൻ. Next is informalization. It refers to a situation when people tend to find employment more in informal sector of the economy and less in the formal sector. So we are basically having two types of sectors: informal, formal. Formal means in the very organized, structured platform. They are generally called the formal sector. But the informal sector generally is called as the unorganized sector. People are moving on towards this unorganized sector because it is very flexible to go for that. നമ്മളിപ്പോ ആപ്പുകളിലൊക്കെ ക്ലാസ് എടുക്കുന്നൊക്കെ കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ട് അല്ലെ? എന്താ അവിടെ ചെയ്യുന്നത്? വളരെ ഫ്ലെക്സിബിൾ ആണ് ക്ലാസ് എടുക്കാൻ. നമുക്കൊരു ക്ലാസ്സിലേക്ക് വരുമോ, അപ്പൊ പീപ്പിൾ എന്ത് ചെയ്യാണ്? നോർമലി they go for that particular job opportunity. So when people are going on for more informal activity, that is generally called as informalization. So as I have already explained, there is a distinction between the informal sector and the formal sector. Informal sector is an unorganized sector. Say for example, I am doing that particular task because I am on a contract basis. So ഞാനൊരു വർഷത്തേക്ക് ഈ ബിൽഡിങ്ങിന്റെ കൺസ്ട്രക്ഷനിൽ പണി ചെയ്യാൻ വന്ന വ്യക്തിയാണ്. Such activities, there is no regulation, no restrictions, no form of any pattern. That is generally called informal sector. Formal sector means it is much more of an organized sector. Say for example, it is except the small scale industry, manufacturing industry, electricity, transport, financial service, all those considerations falls under the organized sector. So there is a platform, there is a stringent thing towards that formal sector. But there's problems regarding informal sector. The problems are they do not get regular income. Informal ആവുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഒരു റൂളോ റെഗുലേഷൻസോ സപ്പോസ് നമുക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും സാലറി കിട്ടിയില്ലെങ്കിൽ വോയിസ് റേസ് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള ഒരു ഓപ്ഷനോ ഒന്നും അവിടെ നമുക്കില്ല. സാലറി ഇല്ല പറഞ്ഞാൽ we should go away. There is no other concern. Do not have protection from government. We don't get any protection, any safety measure from the part of the government because we are on informal basis. So there are certain restrictions or regulation on the basis of that. Next, workers are dismissed without any compensation. Here the workers are, Raman, Varu, okay, today you are not working in a good mood. So you are fired. Raman, Varu, നല്ല രീതിയിൽ ജോബ് ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല. So നിങ്ങളെ പിടിച്ചു പുറത്താക്കിയിരിക്കുന്നു. Raman cannot go anywhere and argue. Why I lost my job? He cannot because he is working in an informal sector. And so basically people from the slum areas work in this particular levels of informal sector. When we are moving on to formal sector, labor laws are there, fixed working hours are there, fixed salary, trade union, medical leave, security, skills, all those things are present over formal sector. So in the case of formal sector, there are particular forms of restrictions, regulations, a unique pattern which normally exists in the case of formal sector. But in the case of informal sector, we don't have such a things. So there is no provisions available. So, is it necessary to generate employment in the formal sector rather than the informal sector? But in the safety, informal sector, more opportunity must be created, or whether in the formal sector. As we all know, in the formal sector, pension, gratuity, provident fund, all those things are available in the formal sector because we are under a rule and mechanism. But under the informal sector, there is no such things. So, there is no safety regulation. And in the case of formal sector, there is assurance that if your salary is 20,000, you will get 20,000 itself unless you go for a leave or something like that. And more income will be there. Increments will be there in the case of formal sector. And poverty, inequality, all those things will be reduced in the pattern of formal sector. So how to generate employment? Massive levels of people must be shifted from agriculture to the industrial sector so that industries get high. More people will be getting employment opportunities because as we all know today people are having a tendency to go for much more the levels of the secondary activities rather than the primary sector. White collar job, right? A lot of white collar jobs are prefer. So what happens? People will migrate to this particular secondary sector. Higher production activities. Normally people will be available with new technology. For the digital era, chat GPT, artificial intelligence. Today's era is your era, right? Yes. Population is rising. So we need proper safety measures, proper food, water, everything must be there. Shelter. So if all these things must be there, we should get an employment situation. In the same way, we should give more importance to the rural sector. Employment potentiality must be created. On the same hand, farmers must be given more provisions. We know that farmers need more income for their development. So the farmers also must be supported. Government also initiates various levels of measures for the development of the agriculture sector. School must be provided enough levels of technical knowledge. But we have a digital platform. Google Meet, you should not be educated because you are used to that. So just like that, school must provide you with technical education. So what we have learned today? We have learned today regarding employment growth and informalization. So what is employment? Employment means it refers to an occupation in return for salary and wages. We have learned about two people. First one is the employee. I am an employee. And those are providing me the job, that is employer. It can be divided into two heads, employment and GDP. Now, primary sector, secondary service, each of the sectors figures we have seen. In the case of primary and the self-employed ones, there has been a declining tendency. Now, if you're going for GDP proportion, 51 to 56, its ratio had increased. Employment also increased. Jobless growth means what? Growth is there, but no levels of job. Casualization, people are willing to work for casual works. Informalization, people are much more employed in the informal sector. So if there is some classification or some basis, we can say it as informal sector, the other name is unorganized sector. Organized sector, other name is formal sector. So these all are the things that we have learned today. I hope it is clear for everyone. So can you answer me a few questions? ഞാൻ കുറച്ച് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ചോദിച്ചാൽ ആൻസർ ചെയ്യാൻ തയ്യാറാണോ? ഇത്രയും നേരം നിങ്ങൾ കേട്ടിരുന്നില്ലേ? Are you ready? I want an answer. Ready?
Okay. Yes.
So what do you mean by what is the other name of formal sector? What is the other name of formal sector? Valare stringent rules, measures, policies, all those are there. So what do you call them? Is it an unorganized sector or is it an organized sector? Formal sector? It is an organized or unorganized? Okay, organized sector. Formal sector means it's an organized sector and informal sector means it's an informal sector. So I hope this discussion is clear for everyone. Is there any doubt? Any doubt?
Very informative class.
Thank you. Any doubt? Any doubt undo? Is there any doubt? Thank you all. Thank you for the vibrant section. Bye.
All the best wishes for our married guys.